Okay, it is 5 o'clock PM on Thursday, October 24th, 2024. I'm going to call this special town board meeting of the town of La Pointe to order. A roll call: Mike Anderson.
Here.
Amy Baxter.
Here.
Susan Brenna.
Here.
Samantha Dobson.
Here.
Glenn Carlson here. We also have our town clerk, our public works director, our accounting administrator, and other members of the public, and our department heads. First order of business is public comment. Paul.
See, there's no limit on the first public comment, but I'll keep it under 2 minutes.
Thank you.
First, as Sexton, I think I'd like to have a pickup truck for the cemetery. Not just so I can plow out in the winter time to go to the cemetery if need be, but in case I also need to get a cup of coffee or go home or something. I don't think it's asking too much. I know it's since Marty on vacation, I've seen the truck go by once, so I don't beat the truck with them, or if it's just sitting out there, because if you don't need it, why you're running pointless. Second thing is, and it's always been the third rail of local politics, is you can't touch any funding at the library. I think the way the budgets are, I think you're gonna have to start looking at some of these things, and maybe start reducing some of the expenditures. Last September, I see expenditures included venture vacations for $1,800, farmhouse metal and island for $400, and Northwest Forager for $4,400. It's well over $6 grand. Now, I know libraries have changed in the last 50 years. They're loaning out not just books, but also I've seen garden tools, DVDs, computer usage, all that stuff. But this can't be everything that comes before them is a need, not a want. And something's gonna have to be done. Now, granted, if they've got $1 million or $1 billion or $1 trillion endowment, they want to spend it, I guess that's up to them. When it comes to tax dollars, I think we're gonna have to start cutting the threads a little bit.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Any other public comment? Okay. Moving on, we have a compensation adjustment for the mechanic CDL driver, and we discussed this previously. And so I'll ask for a motion that we have the compensation for the new mechanic CDL driver position to be $30 an hour, dropping to $28 an hour if they do not obtain their CDL within 3 months.
I'll make a motion that we put the wage at $30 an hour for Matt Harriet and go down to 28 if he doesn't get a CDL
Within 3 months.
within 3 months.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is purchase order for the ambulance portable radios. And that there was some confusion the other night. That is going to come out of the Polka fund. The jet ski was intended, I believe, to come out of a designated fund and not the Polka fund. And so they are asking for us to go ahead and approve the purchase order for the radios at this point.
Make a motion to approve the purchase order for the portable radios in the amount of $27,518. I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, so I mean, I know we already talked about it, but how much the fund does the Polka designated fund, do you know?
Yeah, like $31,045.
So this pretty much eats it up.
I'm sure Sarah explained too, is that because of the shortage of EMP, DMRs, we need radios to put them on the firefighter EMRs. So if we got, because the repeaters already been purchased and fixed. Good idea.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is vouchers.
I will make a motion to approve the vouchers in the amount of $31,021.96.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, we have a budget workshop, and I had told Zach if he could keep it very short, we would move him up to the front. So I would entertain a motion to move, 6B to, 6A.
I'll make a motion to move 6B to 6A.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
And seconded, all in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Zach, you're up. Harbor Commission.
Okay, I'll keep it brief. We're not requesting any funds for the 2025 operating season. We have built-in assurances around the purchase to cover debt service. We're a little behind on drafting our final budget and there's some repairs. But we should be able to cover everything without burdening the town. The one outstanding issue, we're a little behind on our budget. There's a delay in getting information from Mippel, and so we're still working a lot off of the Ellis financial report. The one outstanding issue would have been the EPA grant, which we were just notified that we did not receive, so we will certainly not be seeking the 10% match for that grant.
And, line of credit. Are you guys gonna need?
Yes, we will possibly be asking for another short-term loan in the spring for startup costs. We do have a line of credit available for that, but it seems to be a beneficial relationship with the town and the Harbor Commission to be able to pay the interest to the town rather than to the bank. Yet to be determined, who knows what this winter will bring.
When do we think we'll get the budget?
Within the next 2 weeks is my goal. At the max. We hope to have it already, but there will be delays.
But there won't be any tax levy.
No tax levy, we're not requesting any funding, our revenues should cover this coming year.
Okay. Thank you, Zach. And so not having to do the match frees up some of our potential borrowing ability.
Quite a bit, 3.5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Like, you guys, I know the season isn't over yet, but like originally your target, your target numbers, do you think you're on target or?
There are some months that are low, October is high. It's gonna be, I think we're gonna come in slightly below the Ellers model, but we're gonna be awful darn close.
So it's pretty, okay, pretty close.
Any other questions for Zach? Okay, thank you, Zach. Moving on to Public Works. First we have roads. And I guess before we get too far into it, let's just clarify what paper we should be looking at. Right, so it's this one, right, Lauren, we should use? Okay.
Your notes on the far right column should be legible.
There you go, as opposed to in 4-point type, yeah. Okay, so if we're all on the same,
Which one is?
it's this one, where you can read. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. All right, so we are on the same page, and we can flip over to roads.
Question, in the next copy we get of this,
Yes,
can it have the headers for each page?
yeah, that'd be great, yeah,
Cool. Thank you.
and probably page numbers.
Sure, yeah, yep.
Yeah, page numbers really.
Okay, so,
Yes.
um,
I wrote my own.
Don't give it too much trouble.
okay, so, is there anything that the roads department, public works department would like to, say before we ask any questions we have? I don't know if you,
Might not have gotten it,
okay,
but
I
here,
just printed out.
the numbers should be the same on
Hmm.
what you have.
Yep.
It's just we broke it down by department and,
Well, page 2 on the paperwork that you have. Looks like the same as what we have in our front.
Spreadsheet printout.
This, I think, is the same as what Lauren has on page 6. Yeah. But you're looking. For that, you're looking at the same thing. I think I just hid some columns, so it fit a little bit.
To make it
differently.
smaller.
Yeah.
yeah, we got rid of some of the columns.
Okay.
So that we didn't need the 2021
Mhm.
actuals for tonight's purposes.
I guess the only thing I would say is we need a lot of gravel.
Yep.
We got bunch in place from Northwoods paving, but
Have they satisfied what they had taken?
yes, yep.
Okay. I see, yeah, you do have a number of capital requests
Yeah.
here. And there's also a summary page that I think everyone should have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Okay,
All right, yes, you want to start? I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
go
want to
ahead,
start
Mike.
flipping
yeah,
pages.
yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to go to capital?
Wherever you'd like to start.
Do you care?
Nope,
Let's go to capital request then. And so what you're saying is like, when Ben used to be here, Ben said, you guys got to replace that fuel tank. So now you're saying you're going to replace the 2,000-gallon fuel tank.
Wouldn't be replacing,
It's an
it'd be
addition.
adding.
You'd be adding to it.
So we currently have a 2,000-gallon tank for diesel fuel, 1,000-gallon tank for gasoline. The idea that we have is to, in the same area, we would pour a new concrete pad, drain the 1,000-gallon fuel tank and turn that into diesel, so we have 3,000 gallons of diesel on hand. And then add in a new 2,000-gallon fuel tank for gasoline to double our gasoline supply.
We go through gasoline out there like crazy this summer months. It's shared between all the departments. The fire department doesn't use very much. Police department uses an awful.
Yeah, okay, got it.
And so the idea of doing this is, if we get into a year where we have a long shutdown season, we're not going into spring on fumes. We actually have some supply. 2 years ago, luckily the boats were running all year, but we went through a huge amount of fuel. And if boats were shut down, we would have probably been completely out.
I think it was the winter of 2019, we ran out of diesel and we're shuttling 95 gallons from Superior Petrol back and forth in our little fuel cell in the back of the truck.
okay.
Okay, and then right under that, on the capital request page, you have backup heating unit, backup for
It's for the main shop building, the
the new one.
old one.
The old shop.
Okay,
Currently, what's in there is a heater from the 90s. It still works. What we would do is add a second heater in there. So if one goes down, at least we have a secondary unit so the building doesn't freeze up.
It has broke down before and it took a few days to get Superior Plumbing over here to.
so instead of just replacing it, you'd leave it there, keep using it, and then get it back up?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Anybody else have questions on capital requests for Public Works?
I was wondering, for
Oh, you got more?
No, Amy, good, Amy.
Yeah, go ahead.
the paint machine, you said that it's been done by a crew of 4 for 2 full days. It would be just one guy and not very long, so it would pay for itself very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One guy, how many hours? 2 days? One guy
A
instead of
day,
4?
two guys probably one day, one for kind of cleaning up and getting the pavement ready and the
Yeah.
second one spraying. Though what we have now is hand rollers and a thing called the Roll Master, which was a cheap way for us to get us through. But
It doesn't work very
it
well.
does, it's made for a brand new concrete floor.
Mhm.
It's not made for having rocks and, you know, working on a road.
Okay.
And I got one more question for the, on the same page, the snow removal building, the SRE. You have $7,000 for air conditioning system. So would that be for the whole, are you talking about the offices or are you talking about the whole building?
I think that was just for the
Office and break area, that building was built with no windows that open up, and the main office that Pete works out of has direct sunlight all day long.
It gets over 100 degrees. And
Hooks you out of there.
So you're just talking about the office area or the,
Yeah.
okay.
it would tie into the existing heating system in there.
Any other questions on capital requests for public works? And I take it that on the gravel purchase, that's, you really do intend that we will spend that 25. I know that Ben in the past had talked about building up a gravel fund to make a, you know, huge
Larger, yeah.
purchase, but this is,
I've always been in favor of that. You know, putting $100,000 a year into gravel, you know, because I mean, once. I don't know how it's gonna come over now, but it was always cheapest to ship it by barge. And, you know, rather than get, you know, 5 tons at a time, get it all at once, you know, in that stockpile.
That would be the plan.
One thought is that since the town is now owner of the ferry line, would be, if we did make a major gravel purchase, we'd hire a trucking company such as Micah that Northwoods also hires to truck gravel from High Bridge to the dirt parking lot and stockpile it there. And from there, we could haul it with our axle dump trucks across the boat. You could count the boat fare into it, but in the end, it's going from one pocket to another, and it doesn't really affect the town, the overall budget.
okay, thank you.
I have a question. On the zero turn mower, do we have one of those now and it no longer works, or is it an additional?
It's to,
Replace one that broke down, the motor blew. We usually have 2 of them. One, you know, for the main parks, one kind of lives out at the town park. It broke down, what, years
2
ago?
years ago.
And it costs more to get a motor and replace the motor than it would be to buy a new one.
Okay, thank you.
And I just have one question. You only have one recommended, for the capital project, and that's the cleanup room. I'm just wondering, the curb cleanup room, it's the only one that's marked as recommended. If that has a longer life to it, or, you know, if so, how long?
The only reason I put that as recommended, is we can get by without it if we actually have to. The current way we do it is with push brooms and shovels. It takes a tremendous amount of time. I don't know, it's 3 days with
4 guys.
with 4 guys and equipment. This is an attachment out for a skid steer. It has a little side sweeper to go from the curb to the middle. And then a broom that sweeps it into a bucket. You essentially turn a 2-day, 4-guy operation into 1 guy for a couple hours.
Any other,
I do have one more question.
go ahead, Mike.
Down a couple of pages, then you have, are you saying that replace the 770 John Deere grader?
Yeah.
Or just replace the grader and keep it as a backup?
Well, we're just looking at putting in money into designated funds
Yeah.
for future purchase, because
A new one with all the snow removal equipment on it is about $435,000. They offered us $30,000 on trade for the one we have.
it'd just be best to keep the one.
Doesn't that grader seem kind of big for the island?
It's pretty much perfect.
It's about the same size as the one we.
I wouldn't get a smaller one. I would get a bigger one.
That's the 770 John Deere's what they used in Alaska.
Yeah.
And that's got a lot of power.
And you want something with 6-wheel drive,
It's got, yeah, it's a nice grader.
Get it all.
Yeah.
and if that breaks down, we have no way to gravel our roads. Plow and wing.
That's why we got you, you can fix it.
Not me, Matt Harry Jr.
Okay, anything else on capital requests for Public Works? Okay, on the let's move to the roads department then. Any questions on that?
I did have a question. It was in the remarks, I don't know if I'll find it, again, but somebody put in the remarks, like the set 765, that's FICA.
Mhm.
That's a percent for FICA. And it said not doing it anymore, something like that. Who put that in there?
Oh. Yeah, there's nothing in the highway. So we have highway admin wages.
Yep.
We just don't have highway admin FICA. And I
Just
don't
let them
know.
Do it.
Yeah, I don't know if you've
I-
got that somewhere else.
I think what happened is, I can find the other sheet.
There's another account, highway FICA, 533130.
I think there are two different accounts accounting for the same thing, and that one's just saying that one's not being used anymore.
Okay,
Not that it's, not that it's not, the
okay,
FICA is still being paid for that role, yes, it's just got changed to a different account.
got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions? So other than Matt, adding Matt, then obviously you're replacing Ben. Pretty much brings us back to where we have been as far as staffing. Is that the plan?
Yeah.
Okay,
We hope that next year, well, I guess it'll be more in parks, but.
Yeah.
It would help the roads department, if we're actually able to hire parks personnel earlier than July this upcoming year.
okay,
Hopefully they stick around.
okay. Any other questions for roads at this point? Okay, how about parks? And we've done all of the capital requests. Any and yeah, we've got the zero turn money. So parks is a couple pages down. And I do notice a, significant increase in the wages. I guess that is related to having them starting earlier.
Does that also include the you said you hope,
Hopefully, yeah.
so that number's already.
Any questions on parks?
Are there deposits expected for reservations next year in the parks still coming up this year?
I'm not sure how, the Parks Reservation System works, Ben trained Ray in on it. As far as I understand, as people make their reservations. If people make their reservations through the site, we get paid as it comes along.
Because it seems like our revenue this year is way less than the year before, so if we don't expect any more, then I think we need to lower the budget for next year on what we expect to make on park reservation.
Yeah, and part of the issue is that I think they opened the park reservation up to, I think, 400 or 600 days ahead, so that people could plan their vacations 2 years out. So
Yeah.
now we're getting paid for reservations for 2026. It's making the I would think that's why we're seeing the numbers a little funky is, when they first opened that up, a lot of people probably went in and made their reservations last year, with 2025, 2026.
Okay,
Yeah, well, I should do
So
that.
what you're saying is, when Ben resigned, Ray took Ben's spot for the reservations, or Ray does it now?
Ray's more in charge of the town
Or
park.
we should talk to Ray, and get this.
Yeah, because I think
Money
that
maker.
number is too.
That's, yeah, it's, not right.
Well, I think when we will have one meeting devoted to our revenues and our fee structures. And if Ray could be at that meeting when we do that, that would be terrific.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on parks? Okay, Murph?
Another thing about revenues, where it's going to the single stream for the plastics. Is that why the sale of recycled material number went down so much?
I think the reason that that one number is so high is because that was the first year that we went into car recycling. We had a lot of cars that we went through,
Okay,
and now that we've gotten rid of, I think it was like almost up to 30 cars. You know, now we're not sending off as much shipment of, whereas the change in plastics isn't really gonna affect the sale of recycled material because we never had a market for it and we ended up sitting on the bales for
Far too long.
yeah.
okay. And expenses, I don't see any for composting, but in one of the supervisor reports, he had said he wants to expand that and
You're
add the
gonna,
restaurants in and all
you're gonna
that.
see in the next report, the DNR inspectors report from the 16th.
Mhm.
And that program should have been run through the DNR
Oh,
and never was, and he wants it thrown away immediately.
Yeah, we would not be in compliance with DNR to continue that.
That was his biggest issue, and you'll see that in the monthly report.
okay.
Any other questions on Murph? I have one.
It's a typo.
I see, looking at the wages, total wages so far, both the solid waste and the recycle wages for 2024 through October 9th is about 53,400. And the amount requested for 2025 is almost 97,000. It seems like if we've gone, 9 months, that the next 3 months shouldn't be, another 40-some thousand dollars unless you have some other explanation on that, Evan.
So the budget in 2025 is based on if both Michael and Marty work their full hours. Marty at 2,080 and Michael, I think is around 15,000. 15 or 1,500. Yeah, 1,560. This year, I mean, I don't know, I don't see time cards at all, but I don't think Marty was putting in full weeks for most of the year.
Okay,
Don't quote me on that, but that's probably why there's such a difference in wages.
You did it on a worst case scenario? Like you used the total amount of hours?
Yeah, I used the total amount of hours. I don't know, we might not have got the printout of the.
yeah, we do have that
Yeah.
in there.
So essentially, the number that's put in there for the MERP wages is based on the max wages that would be made if they work their full 40 hours, or for Michael, because he's collecting social security is limited down to 1560. Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions on Murph? Okay.
I don't know if we didn't go into capital request, but we are requesting the replacement of one of the trash compactors.
Mhm. Yeah, that was on your capital request.
I just want to make sure you see that.
Yep,
And then, two, putting in, $20,000 into a designated fund for hook lift truck replacement in the future.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So moving on to airport. And I see Paul is also here. Does anyone have any questions for Paul? And I'm looking. I did not see any capital equipment request for airport, unless I'm missing something.
Right here.
It's a
Okay.
tractor.
Oh, that's right, the new tractor. Okay. Any questions for Paul?
My only question would be, how's it going out there? Pretty good?
Yeah.
It is the tractor that we're replacing old and unusable, same question kind of, is it?
It's definitely old. Yeah. And it's,
Talking about the 145?
Yeah.
yeah. Starting to dig one down was pretty hard.
Right now, we have to, well, if we don't get a new tractor, we're gonna have to lift the cab off to replace 2 hoses. Because it's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And you can really get a new tractor for that price?
That is what our contribution would be.
The BOA would contribute.
It'd be an FAA grant.
Okay.
Or you have it, and then the BOA would pay some of it.
Yeah.
If you look at your capital, the form we filled out.
Yep.
It should break that down as to what the BOA would be willing to give us. In funding, along with state aid. And then there's just our contribution of the 18,847. With a total of $400,000. I'm not sure where they get that number, but that's the BOA's number, FAA's number.
It's about the going rates for
Or like,
Yeah,
I believe that's also including like a snow blower, attachment, mower, and some other stuff.
thank you. Any other questions on airport?
My only question would be, when we got that 145, when Brian Murphy was the airport manager, and it was kind of a bust. I mean, everybody, every community got that tractor. And it wasn't really made for anything but sweeping. And so I'm just, like, when you guys, you know more about it than me, and don't get another one that we.
No,
It's good for about 6 hours. Work.
No, the BOA, their recommended tractor is like a New Holland T8, which is, your standard farm essentially. Which would be much better than what we currently have.
Yeah, just don't get another one.
I don't think they make them.
and you said it would have a snow blower, different things like that.
Yeah, the necessary attachments that the BOA.
So
As
those are the
necessary to.
things that come with it, we wouldn't have to purchase them
No,
later. Okay, good.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on, Doc. It's a very small line item. Anything on that? Anyone? Okay, cemetery? Any comments from the sections?
At some point for a capital improvement out there, we need to get like the gravel overlays, we're talking about gravel. Especially at the south end, it gets kind of wet and smeary in the spring. There's a couple of potholes, probably the last time they had gravel on that road. And Tom Blazen was here and probably beside my brother, he's the only other one in this room that remembers that. And so, right? Yeah. No, I think, it doesn't have to get like 4-inch overlay, but especially on the side, the south end, past the Sexton shed towards south. And I think you guys can get. Even if we did a 4-inch overlay, that's like 5 truckloads. It's good enough, not a big deal.
Okay,
I think we can waste the rest of the 5/8 on.
Yeah, perfect.
all right, good, thank you.
Something I can think of, I mention this every year, if you get a dry year, which this year was, and you have time, which maybe they did, you could maybe think about ditching the sides of the cemetery, maybe improve the drainage. But this isn't something that has to be done, if you don't really compliant, it's just something that was mentioned.
Cemetery Road?
No, no.
The perimeter.
Drainage, you ever got up there, someone would walk the perimeter, there's ditches on either side,
Gotcha.
you could clean them out. It might help a little bit with drainage, the only other time you're ever gonna do it is if you're in the drought.
Right.
And you have time, and yeah, we're in a drought, but I don't, you don't have the time, you don't have the time.
Especially on the southeast end, you know, by the road, that's bad, that gets bad.
The only other thing I gotta pick up is shovels, wheelbarrows for the sexton shed. Then of course there's the truck I'm asking for.
We'll take that into account. We will consider that.
And you have to look for 6,500, there's 3 items I mentioned here, you didn't take them, so you shouldn't have, but if you didn't have those expenses, you could buy a 4-wheel drive right then.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions on the cemetery? No, thank you both very much. Okay, well, that takes care of Public Works. Moving on, Fire Department. Chief is here. Do you have any things you'd like to mention to the town board before we have questions?
I apologize for the meeting that, me and Lauren kind of had her. We didn't have great paperwork, but I apologize for missing that meeting.
Any comments on any of your Apple requests, Chief?
No, we've been trying to kind of put them together throughout the year, so we had that right away.
Does anyone have any questions on either their capital requests or their operating budget?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Maybe Rick isn't the person to ask. But so we got a request for a purchase order for that Sea-Doo or personal water.
Yeah.
Okay, so where is that money gonna come from?
Our 6606 runs in, I thought Greg would have sent the minutes for we voted yes to use those funds.
That covers the entire cost.
Yep, whole cost, so.
And those are, you do have those funds existing. That's not speculative on what you might
We have
raise.
Probably 62,000. Yes.
Okay, great.
So the remark about another fundraiser this summer would just be like to replenish the kitty.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's a wonderful thing that got pulled in.
I'd asked this to ambulance, last week, and I was just wondering, you have some split costs between EMS and fire department and police, and I just was wondering if EMS and fire are on the same page for their capital improvement plans. Like, does ambulance know that this needs to be in their budget?
Are you talking about the lighting or
Well, we
Lighting and gutter.
yeah,
or the gutter?
yeah, both. Because it wasn't mentioned in ambulance. Or police, yeah, or police.
Yeah, no.
They may not be, we talked about the gutter with them. And Sarah may not know about the lighting and the gravel parking lot, and it's a safety issue.
Okay,
And the gutters would be for the east end.
Yeah, so everyone kind of knows the story, but the ice destroyed the gutters a couple of times, so we put complete snow retention systems on it. But then, someone made a call not to put the gutters back up. We had solved the problem of not destroying the gutters during a wild winter. But there's, those gutters feed into a $50,000 storm sewer system just to keep the water away from the building. It's, yeah, they're pretty important.
So are they existing and then put them back up, you're saying?
No, they took them down, took them away.
So they're gone altogether?
Yeah, they're pretty well.
When Bert Hammer left, I kind of gave him a call and said, yeah, like I said, he's out there going back up, so.
So we'll just have to have the two other departments update theirs, so it includes this
Sure.
portion. Okay.
Okay, any other questions on fire?
These radios you still need, they're not the ones that are already being purchased.
Oh,
The radios you still need, they're not what?
no, it's very not, because, so that was just to fill a thing with EMRs. 'cause they-
Okay.
And typically we get a grant. that-
Okay.
Okay, I seem to recall that in the past we had discussed, some sort of control over the number of responders that are gonna be, has that happened? Like, do we, every time there's a call, do we, now that we've got 20 people, do we maybe have 20 people showing up for, some minor call?
So if it's a fire, yeah, everyone shows up, but, when it comes to like lift assist where there shouldn't be, we kind of worked out with Sarah and Jay and, to just not say when there's enough people there, we call everyone else out, so. Yeah, that's usually the only time when I think, most calls, yes, we want to see it come, so.
Okay, any other questions for Rick? No, thank you, Rick. Okay, moving on to library. We have Lauren here. Thank you, Lauren. And do you have any preliminary comments you'd like to make?
We explained the capital, outlay, we're going through some, elevator repairs right now. That are, the elevator that's in the library is a residential, elevator that is no longer needed. And so we're having issues with some of the circuit boards that are in it. But we're going through right now a $5,000 repair on 2 of those circuit boards. And repair company is hopeful, but if this step doesn't work, the next step is a $25,000 upgrade to the entire board. And so that's what that request is about. There's a chance it will not be needed, but it's better to prepare for that.
Thank you. Any questions from the library?
I got a question for Lauren. In or the minutes from the meeting, you talk about $24,000 for the lower roof. Are you talking about this roof, the porch roof?
In the back lower roof as well, all of the lower roofs, so like the side entrance, the back lower roof, and then the front porch roof.
Okay, okay, got it.
Any other questions for Lauren? Okay, thank you, Lauren. Moving on to committees, we have the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. I don't know, did we get requests from all of these committees, Lauren?
No, so I can't remember what Georgine had said about the Affordable Housing Committee, just that I think they were gonna use what they have retained, it's the 11,000. The steering committee,
They're kind of gone.
they've dissolved, so the expense of the $2,681, Georgina and I thought, well, that should be put back into the general fund, so that's why there's that expense there.
Yeah.
Community awards, we just put, that wasn't from the committee because they happened just last night, 2 or 2 nights ago, you.
Appointed them, yeah.
To them, so we just assumed, like, just based on buying plaques and things like that, that $50 seemed reasonable just for the point of the meeting. They wanted to change it, they could. And then I think both the Energy Committee and the Public Arts Committee have representatives here to say.
Okay, energy,
You saw Bill Bailey's email.
Yeah. we've got 50,000 in for the microgrid.
Or to approve $50,000 match. I don't know if that was supposed to come out of this year's or next year's budget. It's gonna take the time on a little bit sooner, but.
Yeah, they haven't heard anything what Bill
Right.
Bailey said, so I think you guys received the email from him that kind of lines out what
Yeah.
they were asking for.
Yeah, and
It's just a little unknown.
I believe that was in the current year's budget also,
It is.
50,000. So it looks like it just is gonna be a timing of moving it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
I got a question for the energy.
okay,
So, and for energy committee, it says negative $84,091. What negative?
There were some tax incentives, I believe. Bill Bailey was really the whiz on this and it was all a little confusing, but
Yeah.
there was some additional cash outlays from the town that would be reimbursed. Some of them were tax incentives, and despite the fact that the town is not a tax-paying entity, they qualified for it. So we would initially outlay the funds and they would come back through this program.
I think Durgene was under the impression that you would apply to get that money back in 2026. So after the project was completed.
so we should add that into the budget make sure that's in the budget for 2025, that 80-some thousand should then be, I mean, it's gonna be reimbursed, but if it is gonna be in a different year, we probably should have it showing up in this year's accounts.
Yeah.
Or 2025's accounts. Okay, public arts,
Just to recap our FEMA projects, so over the last year, we've had 3 separate projects. One in the summer, one in the fall, and one in the spring. That would be the 45 beautification project in the summer. This fall, we had the Shop Art Festival along with the Fall Fest. And in the winter, we did the bathroom. This past year, we kept our expenditures very low. A lot of our board members donated materials. So most of our projects stayed under about $100 per project. However, we did pay out $100 to the Fine Work Medallion and $100 to each of the artists that participated in the Fortified Beautification project. Moving forward, for each of our projects, we would like to be able to pay artists that participate. So we did increase our budget for the fall event and the winter event to accommodate paying the artists, in lieu of having the artists donate, what we used last year. And we increased our budget as well for, a project for next summer, where we hope to put a community event calendar in Russell Park. So we're investigating the 2 different ways to do that. One would be updating the existing signage that's in Russell Park. That's where we have the map of Madeline Island. So one suggestion would be to remove half of that sign and put a community event calendar there. The other is to create an additional sign there. The goal there would be to have the Public Art Committee help be more of an economic driving force on the island. We have tons of community events, but most of them are communicated either through the community Facebook page or through the disparate community organizations. So visitors and islanders alike have a hard time keeping track of all of the events on the island. So the hope would be that having a physical event calendar in the center of town, we could help communicate better to people that come through the island, what we have going on here.
Who would be in charge of updating that calendar then?
The thought was that the Public Art Committee would be in charge of updating that calendar, and it could both be a digital, it could live on the town's website as well as physically in the park.
The Chamber of Commerce maintain a community calendar,
They maintain one for the Chamber of Commerce, but it does not have. all
doesn't
the-
have public.
Correct.
Okay.
So the hope would be that the Chamber of Commerce, organizations like the LaPointe Center, Woods Hall would all submit events. And that way, when there's concerts in the park and when there's, educational events at Woods Hall or, what have you, that they could submit them and the committee would update the calendar and then update the physical location as well.
So you mentioned that you mentioned that the Chamber of Commerce, obviously, we all know they just post for the members. But do you know that they would want to post on this other? Because you said we could have events on, like, you know that they would be okay with that?
Not necessarily. So the thought would be that it wouldn't infringe on what they're doing, because celebrate what they are. So, they do part of that work, but all of our other organizations are not represented, especially in our public spaces.
Okay. Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Thank you very much. Let's see, community awards. I don't think they requested.
Yeah, I said, well, they didn't request any just because they hadn't been appointed
Right.
yet, but Georgina and I added just $50 as an expense.
Okay. And winter transportation, I know that the committee recommended that the three parties contribute $6,000 this next year, down from the 10,000 that it has been.
Say that again.
The committee, the Winter Transportation Committee, basically self-assesses itself and allocates, basically the insurance costs and some of, Winter Transportation Inc.'s costs.
Right.
And so because we haven't had an ice road in a couple of years, the fund that we have been putting money into, is not as depleted as
Gotcha.
we were expecting it would be. So we don't need the full 10,000 from each. We think we can easily get by with 6,000 from.
And then next go back to 10, probably.
Depends if we have an ice road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your stress.
Yeah,
It's good
well,
that we didn't get paid for paving.
yes, it did.
Almost personally.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so any questions on winter transportation? Okay, town plan commission zoning?
Zoning, so I'm gonna speak up, I know Ed's here, and him and I talked briefly. I kind of put together most of their budget, Ed, you can maybe speak for your fees.
Well, the only request for increase that we've done this year is change the rental renewal fee from 300 to 350, which would generate close to another 7,000. If we want to do 350, but that's only the increase that we've asked for. Otherwise, you know, the budget really hasn't changed, you know, wherever my wages, it's not, you know, being big change.
Thank you, Ed. I do notice we are seeing on the revenue side, at least with building and land use permits and zoning permits, we're seeing a market increase in those from prior years, and I'm guessing that is partly growth, but partly increase in fees.
A big chunk of it is the rental renewal fees. Last year, I think I took in like 27,000 in rental fees, and this year it's over 50. And you know, it's pretty big for the budget. And so far I'm at like 23,000 this year in permit fees, and the year's not done yet. So,
Well, it looks like your department is paying for itself.
yes, this year.
So, excellent. Any questions for Ed or zoning or town plan commission? No, thank you, Ed. Moving on to general government. Some small capital fences on that. And Lauren, I'm going to assume that you're the spokesperson for general government.
I'm gonna try to answer any questions you may have. Yes.
Okay, that's all we can ask. Does anyone have any questions on, well, let's start with capital expenses for general government. Okay. How about, operating expenses?
My only question would be, do you see any big expenses that we better fix that shit? You see anything coming up in 25 that,
I think the only thing that would be, and I'm sorry, because I don't think it got added in, Will had given Georgine and I a listing of, you know, technology expenses, which would be the biggest thing. And we got the printer this year, so it's covered, and we haven't spent much of what was budgeted last year for the recommendations Will gave, so my apologies, I'll note to get that to you.
I'm just the, you know, like 20,000.
Yeah, I think it was around 20 to 25, but we haven't spent what was in the budget this year, although Georgine and I was thinking that he's got about a little over 14,000 left for this year's budget to replace, and
The router?
the router, yeah, in the basement, which really should be, he's been apparently recommending that for a few years, I think, so he would suggest doing that, and then next year, like, I know the accounting computer needs to be replaced, it's very slow. Same with the town admin computer, just a few computer replacements.
I
It
have-
would have been one other thing.
I do have one question, Lauren, and that is, I see, data processing computer supplies,
Mhm.
35,000 in the budget, and it says new computers needed for staff, new equipment needed for router, did not purchase what was expected in 2024. Is that, are we duplicating the 20 at all, the equipment that's in the capital outlay of the 20,000 with that 35?
Perhaps.
If you could look into that.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, I have a couple other things. I think we are not gonna probably, hopefully, I'm thinking we will not have to go to the 120,000 for an administrator, and maybe I might change that to like 100. And that would then drive down some of the FICA and retirement cost also. And then the accounting services, the 60,000. Maybe want to take a look at that. Which was the Nicole
Yes.
thing,
Mhm.
so. Anybody else on general government?
Why would we drop Nicole or not drop or lower it?
I think that Lauren's gonna need it less. And if there is someone new, they will probably not need it as much either. Because Lauren has been keeping very good notes on how to do the job.
Okay, so just less, we're getting to need Nicole's assistant less and less and less and less. Okay. Got it.
That would be the goal.
Yeah. Okay. Very well. We talked before the meeting about setting up a next meeting of next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Where we'll do sort of our rehash, and I think we'll do fees, revenues at that meeting also.
And that's the
29
29,
at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, if that works for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we may or may not need to have the meeting that was scheduled for a week from tomorrow.
The
depending on-
November 1st. meeting.
Yeah, depending on how productive we can be next Tuesday. Otherwise, do you have any questions, Lauren?
Do you have any requests from me between now and Tuesday, except for fee schedules? I think maybe I'll update the general, the whole pack and for your requests and some of the things talked about and aside from those two things.
Other than that, I would, to the extent we don't already have compensation summaries,
From you.
Sorry, it's hard.
compensate, we see like what
Oh,
Public
sure.
Works.
Compensation.
Yeah, we can get sort of for, everyone, but we've seen in the past, and you can look in the
Mhm.
the files
Sure.
to kind of see what we've done in the past.
That question for score before you leave.
Okay,
When's Marty coming back?
According to his leave of absence letter, he's gone till November 4th.
But we're gonna be done with this.
hopefully, yeah.
I just be with Ben's absence and, the confusion of the files, I just kind of took the lead and control
That's
of
fine.
running through the budgets and looking at